Hi, I'm Brad the Solar Guy. I'm here to answer all your questions about residential solar. So let me tell you a little bit about my story and how I got to be Brad the Solar Guy. So I've been doing residential solar for 10 years, and I moved my entire family from Brooklyn to Western Mass in order to get into the solar business. And that turned out to be a fantastic and wonderful move for myself, my career, and my family. So I'm very grateful for solar personally. Soon after we moved here, we tried to buy a house and could not, and ended up building a house. So about 8 years ago now, we built our house and we purchased a solar system to put on it. We put on the maximum size system that we could at the time. It was limited to a 10 kW inverter, and we were able at the time to put a 13.2 kW system DC behind that, and we purchased it. We ended up putting it in our loan for the construction loan, so it's in my mortgage now. And at the time, there were very high incentives, so I got the 30% federal tax credit. I got a $1,000 tax credit from Massachusetts. Those are both still available today. But I also got the incentive program called SREC, which paid out a tremendous amount of money over a 10-year period. So I'm actually still have a couple of years left on that. And just on a cash basis between the tax credits and the incentives, without even counting the electricity that I didn't have to buy during that time, it's already paid for itself if you don't include any interest on a loan. So on a cash basis, it's already paid for itself without even counting the savings on my electric bill. So if you count that, it paid for itself a long time ago. But it was not enough solar. So we built our house to have an all electric house for the most part. We have natural gas, and we use that to augment our heating system when the temperature dips below a certain, and I could actually adjust it. I just adjusted it down to 25 degrees this last winter, which worked fantastic. So we didn't burn very much gas at all. And we used an air sourced heat pump to heat and cool the house. So it's similar. It's the same technology as mini splits, but it's actually, we have it ducted and we use the gas furnace as a backup. So we have a heavy electric usage. And the first year that we had the house and we had solar cranking, we got one electric bill, and it came in March because of the way net metering works. We overproduced in the summer and we had a credit, and then the credit carried over into winter. And then at the end of the winter, we got a big fat electric bill. And that happened the first 2 years that we had solar. And so that's me. So the solar was working great. The solar was performing exactly as it should. We were just using more electricity than the solar was producing. So that happened the first couple of years. And then I got an electric vehicle, and then we started getting electric bills in January, February, March, and that would depend on how much I drove that particular year. But my electric vehicle really added to the usage. And then, not this last winter, but the winter before, the net metering really didn't function that great in Western Massachusetts on National Grid for people who were, doing their, well, here, let me explain what happened. So net metering, you accumulate a dollar amount credit during the summer here in Massachusetts when you overproduce, for most people who have solar, not everybody, but almost everyone. And it accumulates at the rate per kilowatt hour that you're buying, that you would have bought the electricity, you get a credit for that amount. So for the supply and the delivery rate. And 2 summers ago, it was 28 cents. And then the winter came around, and the winter rate, natural gas went crazy, and a bunch of other things that they raised rates for other reasons as well. But the overall rate that we paid per kilowatt hour that winter was 48 cents per kilowatt hour. And so my net metering credit ran out almost immediately. And in fact, we got an electric bill December, January, February, and March, and a big, huge natural gas bill too. So my incredibly efficient solar house that was supposed to be very cheap on a monthly basis to run, suddenly, just because I had some electric use and some natural gas use, suddenly I paid about almost $3,000 between my electric bill and my natural gas bill that year. And that was, just absolutely crazy. And I was feeling a bit of the pain of people who didn't have any solar. And luckily, here in Massachusetts, they changed the rules for how much residential solar you could have, and they upped the limit to a 25 kW inverter. And so I immediately got another solar system. Now, this one I leased, and I go into the reasons why, the difference between a lease and ownership in another video. But for me, it was just cheaper to lease the solar this time. It lowered my monthly payment significantly, put in another 11 kW system, and then turned the thermostat on the furnace down 25 degrees. We had a mild winter as well, and natural gas rates were lower. But anyway, I got through the winter without an electric bill and with a very expensive natural gas bill. But I did have to pay, for the solar electricity, but I'm paying half what I would have for that electricity from National Grid. Now, I also oversized the system significantly, anticipating getting another electric vehicle or using, the electricity in some other way, but really most likely another electric vehicle. Or I can also just keep turning the natural gas temperature down as well. So that's my personal experience with solar. And the reason, the economic reasons I did this is pretty obvious. It's for me anyway, knowing the tax credits that go into it and everything. But really the economics of it for me, the way I look at it is you're buying an infrastructure or leasing an infrastructure, in the case of leasing it, that's going to produce electricity with no ongoing fuel costs. So you get the cost of putting it in at today's rates, you get a huge federal subsidy, and also you get electricity for 25, 30, 40 years with no ongoing fuel costs. So it's just really the infrastructure cost of today with the tax credits. So the ability of that to produce electricity over time is going to be huge, and it's going to be really cheap no matter what, compared to what's going to happen with the grid, because the grid is going to have ongoing fuel costs, they're going to have maintenance, they're going to have workers, they're going to have pensions, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so to get back a little bit more to my story, so I've been helping people go solar. I've done it myself. I really believe in it, but it doesn't work for everybody at all. Most people can't do it. So in Massachusetts, really only about 30, maybe 35% of homes qualify for it for any number of reasons, mostly shade or structure, or if you don't have good credit, you probably aren't going to be able to do it. Also, even if you do qualify, say you want to go solar and you qualify to go solar, it's not up to you. So we have to get it inspected by the town inspectors, and their costs may come up there with electrical or structural. We have to have a third-party engineer sign off on it to make sure that it passes Massachusetts' strict structural rules for solar. That's different in every state, of course, but here in Massachusetts, that's the way we have to do it. We also have to do fire setbacks. That has to be approved by your local fire marshal. And then also the utility. Now, the utility by law in Massachusetts has to approve it, but they can attach a price to upgrading the local grid infrastructure in order to make it safe. In other words, your solar system might be exporting too much electricity for the local transformer to be able to handle safely, and they then would ask you to pay that before you went solar. So the highest one I've ever seen was $7,000, but I heard of one recently that was $40,000. So obviously in either case, you're probably going to cancel, although, I mean, it depends on, but almost always. And so, you may not be able to go solar, and it's not up to me, it's not up to you, it's up to the utility ultimately, which is kind of crazy since they're the ones that you're trying to get away from. But anyway, solar can be a lengthy process. It can have a lot of hurdles and a lot of unforeseen problems, but I've been through all of them. And, what I promise all of my customers is that if you choose me to help you go solar, I promise I will really try as hard as I can to get you solar. I can't promise that we can, but we will try really, really hard. We're really good at it, but we can't do it for everybody. So I hope this was helpful. Please leave your questions and comments down in the comment section below. Have a great day.